This Jocks 94.5 podcast is brought to you by Millennium Satellite and Video. Log on to msbnow.com. TV excellence everywhere. That's Millennium. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning starts now.
All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. 9 o'clock right here on Jocks. Got the whole band back together, sort of. Greg in Dallas. You haven't told us why you're in Dallas. What is this, your annual friend trip in Dallas that you do?
No, it's McLaren.
No, that was a while ago. Yeah, I'm going to see McLaren. Just wanted to come hang out. No, I'm speaking at church tonight in Forney, Texas. Going to go speak to a lot of high school kids and middle school kids. Talk about faith, talk about football, talk about the upcoming season, and have some fun. So it's been great. It's good to be back home, but I've never been to Forney, so I'm looking forward to that.
How far out of Dallas
40
is
minutes
that?
east.
Okay. 40 minutes
it's about
east.
40 minutes southeast of Dallas.
Gotcha. Okay. South of Dallas or south of Fort Worth?
Dallas.
Or Arlington? Because those are three different cities according to you.
No, Arlington is due west of Dallas. Fort Worth is due west of Arlington. But yeah, Forney is about
due west. What do you like, Magellan?
Well, it's like, I mean, you have to speak in. I mean, yeah, you take
guys,
732
walking the Oregon
paces
Trail?
west.
As the crow flies.
Yeah, we're hunting oxen on the Oregon Trail right now. But yeah, you just head west as far as the eye can see, and you'll find yourself Arlington.
Oh, let's welcome in the coach, Wimp Sanderson. He joins us each and every week thanks to our friends at Coke and Piggly Wiggly. Coach, how are we doing today?
I went to Abilene.
Abilene, Texas. Did you try to steal somebody off Abilene Christian's roster?
I went to Abilene, Texas, and all you could find was a whole lot of wind, and the only thing that caught that wind was barbed wire fences. It blew right through those barbed wire fences and it blew your hat off.
Because west is, Greg, west is like...
I went to play, what?
West is Lubbock, right? Don't you go west to get to Lubbock?
Yeah, well.
So Lubbock would be about 3 hours northwest of Abilene. Abilene's about 3 hours west of Fort Worth.
So is it West Texas is basically like the Badlands, just like middle of nowhere, essentially?
I wouldn't necessarily go as far as to call it the Badlands. I would just go as it's just the desert. So, yeah, the further west you go, the more desert you'll find. Now, if you go up into the Panhandle, you can find some real pretty terrain. I mean, it's not that far away from like Colorado. You catch some of the southern tips of the Rockies and stuff. So that's a cool area. But where Lubbock is pretty desolate. Yeah, Abilene as well.
Yeah. Cool
Places, Midland, Abilene, all like cool places to live. But definitely West Texas small town vibes.
Okay. Hey, Coach, we were having a conversation. Earlier in the show about kind of how we have to view college football and some of these teams and whatnot. And Greg brought up a good point about one of the reasons he thinks LSU needs to win this year and will win big this year is because of what the roster will look like the following year. How far out can you really project as a coach to maybe what's coming up next? How concerned can you be with that? And I know it's very different today with the portal, but do you change your own expectations based on what you know you're going to have in 2 years or 3 years?
You're very careful with your own expectations, and you visit with your offensive and defensive coordinators about your own expectations without making it public, because you just got through saying the big sentence is they can leave you when they want to. If you feel like if these guys are going to stay, they got enough playing time, the money is not a factor, those two factors are not involved in it, then you're in great shape. But for one man, if you think that there's a factor there as far as how much money am I going to get now that I played well, I think we're really good. I think we're really good next year, year after. We're really good if you stay with us. It's not a deal where Alabama recruited a fourth quarterback the other day, because the number one quarterback at Alabama, the one that's probably going to start, has played very sparingly, and the other two guys have not played at all. They're probably just as athletic as the one that's going to start. Maybe I'm right, maybe I'm wrong, but you're also covering what you need to cover, because this other guy that you hire or you sign needs to be there in case one or two of these guys who are not the ones that start, not the ones who play, and not the ones that get enough money, he's got enough people to play in the skill position. So to answer your question, I think that's a good answer. I think that's the correct answer. One of the questions I have for both
Up
of
there.
you is,
So when
can you hear me?
you look at, yeah, Coach, following up on that, like as a coach, because I've been of the belief, visiting with Dabo Swinney, for example, at Clemson, like I've been of the belief for the last 2 years, while they've been, quote, somewhat disappointing by Clemson standards, he kind of, without saying it, said 2025 is our year. Like that's kind of the year we're circling. Like as a coach, do you ever circle years that might be 1, maybe 2, in some cases 3 years in advance, saying that's the year we got to make a run, boys? Do you ever do that?
Well, I think you could with Dabo's case, because Dabo is he's not going to recruit that many kids. He's going to have the attitude a little bit that Georgia has, in that I'm going to like you and you're going to like me, and it's a bond between both of us, disregarding the money, disregarding the playing time somewhat. You came to Clemson because you really wanted to, because I've been there 17 years as the head coach. Dabo was at Alabama when I was there. So I think you have you're concerned about the upcoming season, but I think if anybody's able to say that, it would be Dabo. You take this game in a couple of weeks. Both of you tell me if a beat down by one of these teams is that going to be Transfer City? If somebody wins this game 21-0, whether it be Ohio State, whether it be Texas, but whoever it is that going to be it? Would that worry you, either one of you, as far as I'm moving on type situation? Because I think that's an interesting question, because I know the coaches pick the teams, and sometimes the coaches don't even vote. They have their SID vote. But one of the few times that one is going to play two right out of the barrel.
And I think it's an interesting way to look at it, Coach, and there's no better litmus test for this than one of the teams that's going to be playing there, and that's LSU. They get beat by Florida State 2 years ago. They lose to USC last year, and all of a sudden now they're painting themselves out of a corner. And I don't know how much that changed how the coaches attacked the season, went after things, did things. But I do know if I were to look at those games and find things that were frustrating about them, I would say that things that were problematic in those games were not directly addressed throughout the course of the season. And that would scare the hell out of me if I were an LSU fan. I don't know if Greg feels different about it, but
I would agree somewhat with that assumption. Now you're not gonna like my answer.
Oh boy.
Okay, so I'm gonna give it to you anyway. I'm going to play somebody I can beat in the opening game. I guarantee you, Greg doesn't like it. We need to play somebody. I don't agree. I want to play somebody, and I want to beat them. I want to feel good about myself, although I know I shouldn't. I want a winnable game, a game that I win in the first game of the season. I don't want to play bad name, good team. I don't want to do that. I want to play a decent team, but I want to, in my mind, Coach Bryant was the best ever at studying this, exactly who he needed to play. He talked about who he might want to play in the bowl games. None of this transpired back then, but he had certain teams he didn't want to play in the bowl games. He got by with it. If you want us to come, then here are 2 or 3 of the teams that we'll be willing to play. Here are 2 or 3 of the teams that we don't want to play. Now,
that is fascinating. That is fascinating, Coach, that he had that kind of clout and that kind of wherewithal to say, probably looking forward to the next year, correct? Like if we're not going to win a national title this year, but we can go beat Michigan in the bowl game, or we can beat Texas in a bowl game, we know where that puts us going into the next season. Or maybe a team that he thought wasn't very good, but had the perception publicly of being really good, and he thought to himself, hell, we can go play them, and people are going to think that's a huge win. We'll be preseason number 1, and they're really not that good.
Well, Coach Brown was always one step ahead of the posse. The posse was coming after. He was always one step ahead of them. let's find out who we're going to play. They want us to come to Sugar Bowl. They want us to go to this bowl. Bowls were bigger then than they are now. I want to, I want to find out what opportunities who we have to play, who they want us to play. By the way, while I'm finding that out, I'm going to tell you who I would like to play. That was him.
How far out were games scheduled? Because like you said a moment ago, like he knew who he wanted to play.
10 years.
How many?
10 years. 10.
Man, because it seems like nowadays, so many of these games that are scheduled look like a great non-con game, and then by the time we get there, it's like, boom, boom, ba-dum. It's just not. So
they're wanting to be sure and play somebody that will draw their season ticket. In other words, Alabama's fixing to play Ohio State. They're playing West Virginia the next 2 games, Ohio State down the road. What does that do? It gets their season ticket package sold because they're all dying to see Ohio State. So the athletic directors are having to watch all the money, where the money goes, how much the women's basketball coach is going to get at South Carolina and LSU because they got the 2 biggest programs. So they didn't come in on turnip trouble. They studied, exactly what they need to be what need to be done. And if you played a completely weak schedule, your season tickets might not be so. That's Alabama. It would be, of course, probably, but the Ohio States in this world would, I got to see that Ohio State game. I got to get that season. I got to get that season ticket. And so that's just the way that worked out. Quite different than when you two guys were playing and the good show that you have now, because it's somewhat different.
Well, Coach, we appreciate your. Oh, go ahead, Greg.
Okay.
Coach, lastly, just kind of speaking to external pressure. And just we've talked a little bit about Brian Kelly and how he needs to win this year, and Dabo Swinney, how he needs to win this year, how James Franklin needs to win this year. Like, as a coach, like, how aware are you of external pressure? Like, do you even pay attention to it? Do you care? Like, how does that affect the coach?
Oh, I'm aware of it. All the coaches who've been at football at LSU outside of Charlie McClendon, and neither one of you were even born when Charlie McClendon was there. They've always had a person come in that you didn't know about, you weren't sure about, that was a little bit of a character that your fan base wasn't real sure about. Charlie McClendon he's a good friend of Coach Bryant's, and I think he worked for Coach Bryant at one time. You don't even know who that is, but anyway. I think you're aware of it. There's no doubt about it. You're aware of it. You want to do a good job in order to beat some people. I believe in opening the game with a win, and that's me. Now, if you want to talk to, other people, they say no, you need to look at your team. I don't give. I want to look at my team, but I also want my team to look at itself. And I'm smart enough to know whether they're good or bad, the team that we're going to play, and I'm not going to say publicly either way.
That's an interesting thought, Coach, because there are a lot of coaches that would say, no, we need a big opponent, we need to start off early, need the motivation. But as I just stated, look at LSU the last couple of years, and it's worked against them. So we always appreciate your time. Always love catching up with you. And as we know, each and every week, you're brought to us by our friends at Piggly Wiggly and Coke.
Walk in, you'll walk out with a smile on your face. They've got great food. They've got great meats. They have wine, whatever we might need. Doesn't make any difference. Piggly Wiggly is an outstanding company. Stanley and Andy have been friends of mine for a long, long time. They came to my games, sat on my bench. Coca-Cola is a great product. Got my first little $5 gig I got was through Coca-Cola. So I appreciate you guys having me on. Y'all are really good always. And I'll throw my 2 cents in there. That's not always quite like yours, but it is what it is.
Well, we'll talk to you next week, Coach. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
That's the coach, Wimp Sanderson, joining us on the Higginbotham Hotline, discussing scheduling. Wild to think about sort of Coach Brian's thought process there, GMAC, on scheduling games, teams that, and maybe like actually finding his way to or away from certain bowl games based on who the opponent may or may not be.
Fascinating, a manipulation that could happen back then. You know what I mean? And how you can kind of do whatever it is you wanted. And the coaches had the power to do what it was that they wanted to do in order to alter perception. Like, that's pretty amazing when you really think about it. Shocking.
Right. No, it is. Yeah.
Also amazing.
Well, it kind of goes back to just kind of old school college football, of where a coach could sit there and say, and I'm sure that there are conversations like this, like, you're talking to your AD or whatever, or the league now decides where a lot of teams go, and they're saying, hey man, if they're gonna have Purdue in there, like, why are we doing this? Like, but if we got Michigan or a down Ohio State team, like, yeah, get us in there. We'll go show up for that one for sure. So I don't know how much it works that way anymore. And then too, as Coach was talking about, your mindset's different. Some coaches just want to win a bowl game because they know they need it for job security the next year, the next few years. They can get that on their resume. Hell, maybe even the bonus they're just looking at. I mean, you never know. There's a lot of reasons that go into some of these things. Want to get back into our conversation surrounding LSU, some expectations. Also, there's another very interesting move that's happening at a different athletic department in the state of Louisiana. I'll tell you what that is and ask you what you think it means next on Mac and Cube in the morning.
Go inside Jocks 94.5 on Jocks TV. Morning Jocks, Mac and Cube, and three-man front video simulcasts are presented by Bill Smith Buick GMC and Game Day Men's Health. Watch on the Jocks mobile app and YouTube by searching Jocks 94.5 TV.
It's interesting that we were discussing kind of old school college football before we came back to this segment, because there may be something happening that goes right back to where Coach Sanderson was just talking about inside athletic departments. And this one may not have been as intentional, but if you think about it moving forward, could it end up being down the road? Is that something that we could be seeing happening maybe just a little bit more? I'll tell you about Game Day Men's Health first. If you're feeling on edge, if you're lacking sleep, Game Day Men's Health wants to help you. Do you lack energy? You having a tough time getting going every day? They have multiple options that can help you sort of get back to full strength, get back to your health, get back to living your life the way that you want to. Weight loss programs, testosterone replacement, a lot of different ways that Game Day Men's Health wants to help you out today. And here's what you do. Go to GameDayMen'sHealth.com. You sign up for the free consultation, and then you get a free PSA test and testosterone test. They find out where your baseline health is. Present the options of ways they can help you, and then you walk out the door feeling better at Game Day Men's Health. And if you don't need anything, you walk out of there no charge. If you do decide to go down one of their paths, save 10% on any service they offer by mentioning Mac and Cube when you walk in the front door. It's easy. Locker room environment, good people, holistic approach to health and wellness. Go to GameDayMen'sHealth.com today to remove the brain fog, get more energy, and get back to being your normal self. GameDayMen'sHealth.com. Tell them you heard about them right here on Mac and Cube in the morning. Greg, do you know who Louisiana-Monroe's athletic director is?
I do as of yesterday.
Okay. Well, John Hartwell was the AD. He had actually been on the show because he was previously at Troy, and he was the associate AD at Ole Miss before that. So we've talked to him on the show. He resigned a couple days ago after 6 months on the job, and ULM released a statement saying there's a plan in place. We'll be making that plan known as soon as the logistics are finalized. My commitment to ULM athletics and the Sun Belt Conference is unwavering. That comes from ULM President Dr. Kerry Castile. So they would then go name Bryant Vincent the interim athletic director after John Hartwell resigned after 6 months on the job. Now, I know, Greg, this is not necessarily the plan top to bottom. This is not what Kerry Castile probably said, oh, let's put this in place and let's go do that. But you think back to Darrell Royal at Texas, Bear Bryant at Alabama and Texas A&M, Frank Broyles at Arkansas, Barry Alvarez at Wisconsin. It may not be top to bottom the best decision, but if you're some of these Sun Belt, Mountain West, even now Pac-12, whoever athletic departments, Conference USA, American Conference, could this maybe sort of be a way to come full circle and say, well, hold on. We can save $350,000, $550,000 a year on an AD. Football coach can also be the AD. A lot of our decisions are going to revolve around football anyway. Give him that title and put some good people around him to be able to help, and off we go. We just saved ourselves $500,000 a year.
Well, especially when you take into account what the head coach's job responsibilities are now. Like, what is an athletic director traditionally helped with? Relationships amongst the alumni and the boosters, fundraising. Like, that now kind of falls on the shoulders of the football coach in some cases. And the smaller the athletic department, the probably more the football coach has to do to make sure that they have the resources necessary to be competitive. So if you're at a place that just inherently understands that you got to pay money to be good, then all right, the football coach doesn't have to do as much. But if you're at a place where you actually have to like go out and generate interest and be seen in the community and serve as a little bit of a figurehead, like, yeah, I can understand the point completely. So yeah, I could see this becoming a little bit more mainstream. I just don't know the day-to-day. I just know how hard Greg Byrne works. I can't speak to John Cohen. I'm not as familiar with the inner workings of their athletic department. But I know Greg Byrne and how hard he works and everything he does for the institution, from handing out water bottles on game days on the concourse when it's 1,000 degrees at 11:45 kickoffs, to being at every single game that he can possibly attend for all sports. And I don't know how the athletic director, if he also is the head coach, is ever going to be able to do those things. So I think it just depends on what the expectation level is, but it makes sense if we're talking about cost-saving measures and trying to beef up the salary of a football coach that could probably have some leverage to go elsewhere at some point in the future.
Yeah, I mean, is it? I mean, honestly, I'll ask John and Damien. Is it too simple-minded? Is it too simplistic? Is it too high school Harry to think that all these athletic departments that are trying to save money and don't have enough money and can't make ends meet to just start to consolidate in ways similar to this? And maybe it's not football coach some places, maybe it's baseball coach. Mm-hmm. If you got your baseball team rolling, or maybe at Memphis it's Anthony Hardaway. I mean, not that Ryan Silverfield couldn't handle it and do it, but maybe the bigger name that, like Greg said, can bring more people, bring more attention, help raise more funds, can probably go sit in a meeting and get more done with when your Nike deal comes up, or when you're trying to schedule getting into a tournament or getting into a preseason game or a bowl game, can have that clout at the table. I mean, is this too easy to be good, I guess? I
don't know. I kind of look at it because I guess you would lean more towards a football coach because they already have to deal with a lot of people with, the rosters, the training staff, and they're already having to interact with so many people. And it kind of feels as though they're probably the most equipped to kind of sit back and say, hey, we may need you in your direction for the athletics program as a whole, because you already wear so many hats anyway. I think it's difficult for sure, but we've seen other, football coaches step into the athletic director's role and have success. And it's just kind of to Greg's point, what's kind of the expectation? Is it, like, hey, we may have to have some tough decisions with the softball program, or, like the tennis team or something like that. And it's kind of, we have to suffice costs on this end to make sure that because again, Brian Vincent could be coaching somewhere else next year. And now it's kind of more important for him that we save him for a year.
And again, I know this is not the permanent, hey, this is what we intended to do, we want to do, we're going to stay here. I'm just thinking out loud that this could potentially be something that works down the road, because when you talk about the new AD, we've said it here before, it needs to be more business-minded. It needs to be more forward-thinking. It needs to be a little more progressive. All of that is correct and needs to be more financially based. I get all of that. But are you really catching up at some of these levels in some of these schools? Like, who are you trying to catch up with? You're trying to stay ahead of the pack at your school, right? So, like, UAB wants to raise more money than the other schools in the American.
Yeah.
They're probably not worried about, like, comparing themselves to what Texas A&M's bringing in. So, if it's all about cost saving, and if you do have, like Greg said, that figurehead that can go get in front of people and make a lot of these things happen, even if they're not as world renowned in the business world or the financial market world, that you could put them there and they could say, all right, well, we're consolidating that money, and now you can, when he does want to go leave for maybe a job that's on the same or similar level, you can say, well, hold on, you got that AD money too, so like you're a little bit ahead of where so and so is. I don't know. for ULM and where they are financially, I don't think this is the worst thing.
The one thing
I just don't know enough about their circumstances for me to really comment on whether or not this is going to become a trend in the future. Like, I get the thought process. I think we all do. I think it makes sense. But it also makes me wonder, like, for example, if ULM's trying to make a move at baseball coach, like in the football coach in the middle of spring practice, or in the middle of a transfer portal opening window, we already know what kind of hours these guys are keeping. Like, think about how often these guys are hosting recruits and how often they have to be present throughout the summer because guys are coming to visit with their 7-on-7 team, what have you. And now all of a sudden, hey, the volleyball coach is frustrated because the bus they're taking to the games this week isn't going to be operable, and they have to rent a bus that's a school bus with no air conditioning. Like, these are the fires. The AD is constantly putting out fires because every single one of those 24 sports that school offers, they all think they're equitable to football. A lot of them do. I mean, it's the reality. Like, they got to win. They have a job to do, and their job is to win, and they need the resources to win. So in talking to my dad, who worked in an athletic department, like, they would constantly have meetings with the women's basketball coach, the baseball coach, the track coach, and they all thought that they should get what the football team gets. And while not realistic, they all thought that they should. I don't know how that football coach can be able to deal with those conversations because he's going to flat out probably be pretty blunt, and I don't know what kind of bandwidth he's going to have to be able to put those fires out that need to be put out.
It's fair. And listen, I'm not saying that I think this is where everybody should go. I'm just saying, I guess this is the way that I thought about this. When I saw the news and I thought, okay, where could we be going with this? Could there be any sort of reality to this being a part of the future? All these lower levels, and I do not mean that to be demeaning or put anybody down, but let's just call it what it is. Financially, different universities, different programs, different conferences are at a different level. But what does it appear as though they're all trying to do? Act just as those above them, correct? Mm-hmm. Like, at some point in time, somebody's going to buck the trend a little bit here and say, you know what? Like, we're never going to be that.
Right. So
why are we trying to? Why are we building our athletic department the exact same way Georgia does? Why is our athletic department structured the exact same way that Clemson's is? And if it's all financially based, you go make a couple of those changes. You go make some of those adjustments, and you say, yeah, we're going to try different. What do you have to lose? I mean, the revenue is the revenue. You're going to get that far behind? I imagine most of these places have 1-2 people that are probably coming up with 60-70% of the funds that are being raised.
Right.
Honestly, not too much different than a lot of the big schools. It's just those people have bigger bank accounts, except for Memphis, who just offered up $250 million to enter a conference.
And they said no.
Not a lot of schools at that level can do that. Which, by the way, still, I can't even fathom the stupidity that comes along with that. But, God, Greg, that would have been a great question for your mark yesterday, and I totally forgot to ask him.
100% thinking it, but at that point of the seminar, we were already on like hour 7. I was not going to ask another question.
I kind of felt I felt a similar way about a couple of other guests that we had where you could have asked questions to, and I was like, we've been here for 11 hours.
Yeah, we've been here long enough.
We're done. It's time to shut this down. It's kind of like getting the kids to school today. It's like summer's over, guys. We get into the classroom.
Yeah,
okay. We'll discuss that amongst other things when we come back. First, what have you not done today, Greg? Bromberg's, Shinar Flooring, Crocker Moving Services. What do you want to talk about today?
Let's do Bromberg's. Bromberg's is the go-to. And right now they're renovating their Mountain Brook store just to make the experience better for you, the customer. It's always about the customer. It's about making sure that you buy something that is trustworthy from a place that's trustworthy that's been in business for nearly 200 years. Bromberg's has been my destination for fine jewelry for the last 8 years since we've been back in town. I've never had a bad experience, and it's the only place that I would shop. And they have multiple locations. Sales staff is so knowledgeable. They're so helpful. They can get you pointed in the direction of things that will last a lifetime, and in some cases multiple lifetimes, because when you buy these things, you're buying them for multiple generations. These are generational purchases that you want protected, and Bromberg's will help you through that process. So go and check out Bromberg's in Mountain Brook Village and at the Summit.
All right, when we come back, we'll talk back to school, and we'll talk some more SEC football next on Jocks.
The capital of the sports talk nation. This is Jocks 94.5 and JocksFM.com. Birmingham.
All right, welcome back in. McElroy Cubelic in the morning. It is 9:36, Thursday, August 7th, right here on Jocks 94.5. Glad you're with us. Listen online, JocksFM.com. The app is in your app store, iPhone, Android. You can download that for free. Listen on the go. Also watch us live on YouTube each and every morning. And then if you need to go back and watch it throughout the course of the day, show lives there on YouTube. You can go back and check it that way. All right, Wilson Alexander covers the LSU Tigers. And Wilson, we've been kind of kicking around Marcus Spears' comments a little bit earlier in the week, just that if you look at this LSU program, where they are, that if things don't go well, this fan base is kind of ready to turn on Brian Kelly. I'd just be interested to get your thoughts on that statement, where you think the temperature of the fan base is right now for he and his program.
Yeah, I don't think he's necessarily wrong. LSU fans are not a patient group, and that's kind of understandable when you've won 3 national championships under the previous 3 head coaches, all by their 4th season. And now here we are in Brian Kelly, year 4, and they haven't come close to really sniffing the playoff yet. If LSU doesn't do that after investing a lot into this roster, bringing back Garrett Nussmeier, all those things, there should have been a sufficient amount of time to build a roster that can compete for a playoff berth. And if LSU doesn't do that this year, then yes, I do think that a lot of the fan base is going to be kind of fed up. Now, does that mean LSU would actually move on from Brian Kelly? I don't know. I have some doubts about that, but the fans would not be pleased, that's for sure.
Looking at what is realistic, like what do the fans really want from this season? Is it to win a national championship? Is it to make the playoff? Like, what is success from the LSU fans' vantage point this season?
Success for an LSU fan is always winning the national championship. I think for somebody who is maybe trying to be more realistic, though, it's making the college football playoff. If LSU can do that, and then you get hot, and we'll see how things go, then maybe they can actually do that, compete for a championship. But I think the key for them this year is to make the playoff. You certainly don't want to go 9-3 again. They're pretty tired of that around here after going 9-3 in the regular season during Brian Kelly's first 2 years, and then 8-4 last year. They need to kind of take a step forward. I think that's the realistic expectation is to maybe win 10 games in the regular season to make the college football playoff. And that's not going to be easy to do, but I think that is what would be considered a successful season around here. Most of the fan base, anyhow, could accept that.
So when you look at this team, I think some adjustments are going to have to be made based on how it's been managed the last couple of seasons, specifically how things that we showed up and went wrong early in the season didn't really feel like that they were either altered or adjusted or replaced throughout the course of the year. What has to happen that's going to be a little bit different for how this team is managed based on a couple of the other Brian Kelly teams that he's had in Baton Rouge?
You mean managed in terms of things they're doing schematically, or like managed in terms of getting ready for the first game?
I'm not as big on if they lose the first game, the season's over. I mean, it's a tough opponent. I think Clemson's going to win the national championship, so that one wouldn't really bother me much. But whether it's finding balance offensively, whether it's playing different players at different times, finding a true home for certain players defensively, it feels like some things that have shown up in the first game that they lost have just kind of continued throughout the course of the year. Does Brian Kelly need to step in and make those adjustments himself? Does he need to put his foot down in different places? I just, from a management standpoint, that's the path I'm going down.
Yeah, no, he definitely needs to be able to find more balance offensively. LSU, outside of Jaden Daniels using his legs, has not been able to run the ball consistently or very efficiently for the first 3 years of Brian Kelly's tenure, and it became a glaring thing last year. We didn't have Jaden to make up for it. That's a huge part going into this season. We hear throughout the offseason down here a lot about how the offensive line is trying to be more physical, how they're trying to push people off the ball better in the run game. They're doing some things this year. I think they're trying to find went to try to find when they got Braylon Moore out of the portal and Josh Thompson as well at guard, guys who could maybe move when they're pulling a little bit better than what LSU had last year in Garrett Dellinger and a Miles Frazier and a DJ Chester on the interior. But at the same time, you're having to replace 4 offensive linemen. That's not going to be easy. But they talked about that a lot. I mean, Bo Bordelon said the other day that their job, they understand this, is to protect us and run the and that wasn't the word he used, but football. And that's what they're going to try to do. And they understand that that's a big thing. But also on the defensive side, they also need to get some guys in better positions, I think, especially at safety, They need a lot better safety play, and they need to be able to make that defense take a step forward. And Brian Kelly, I think, does need to sort of manage how that goes all in a better way, because it hasn't been there yet during his time here.
Looking at what they can do defensively this year, and we've talked about balance offensively. We've talked about the challenges of replacing the pieces along the offensive line. I do think the continuity defensively, and there was progress made last year, I think they could take a huge step this year. What's stopping this group from becoming one of the top defenses in the SEC?
Well, if they aren't as much improved on the defensive line, that would obviously be a big one. They think they've got something really good in Bernard Gooden, defensive tackle transfer from South Florida. He's impressed them through the first week of camp, but he's not a big guy. Like, you need run stoppers there in the middle. They need Dominic McKinley, the second-year tackle who's 6'6" and max squatting 650 pounds. They need him to be able to do that. And they also need some of these other guys like Jacoby and Guillory's coming off of an ACL. Some of these big guys that they have on the line, they need to be able to stop the run. They need to be able to set the edge better. Jack Pyburn from Florida is going to be a big piece of that. That's a big thing for them. They have to be able to stop running quarterbacks. We saw that glaringly against South Carolina and Texas A&M and Alabama last year, that LSU wasn't able to do that, and they've got some more on the schedule this year that they're going to have to deal with. So those are some big things too. And then I think the safety play that I mentioned a minute ago has got to get better. They got to be able to take better angles, better routes to the football, and tackle better in space. There's some transfers back there, Tamarcus Cooley and A.J. Halsey, who are probably going to be the starters, and they need improved safety play in order to be able to do everything that Baker wants to do defensively.
When you look at that defense and some of the strengths, maybe some of the weaknesses we already referenced, what is Harold Perkins going to be for Blake Baker this year? Strength, question mark, weakness? What will we end up describing him as when this season's over, based on what you're hearing through camp?
Based on what we're seeing through camp so far, I'm starting to lean toward strength, and I'm hesitant to do so because, of how last year started and how he wasn't necessarily fantastic as a sophomore, even though he was a good player. But it seems like he's actually maybe, and I'm sort of like, cautioning against this because we don't want to fully drink the Kool-Aid yet, but LSU's, using him in a few different spots. He's playing from that star position. He's even rushing off the edge at times. And he's being really disruptive from both places. In 7-on-7, he baited Garrett Nussmeier into an interception. He's been getting pressure off the edge when he's in that pass rush package. And then from that star position, he looks more decisive than he did when he was trying to play inside linebacker a year ago, or even when LSU kind of moved him out to strong side backer. And so he's not missing tackles from what we've seen, although they've only been in pads for 2 days so far. It just looks like a better version, a more confident and decisive version of Harold Perkins than we maybe saw recently. From what I can tell so far, this has been one of his most disruptive camps at LSU, and so it's just really encouraging right now. And so I'm kind of leaning towards strength, but let's see how it plays out.
And that's the case. Finally, the offensive line. A lot of new pieces, 4 guys drafted off last year's group. How confident are they in that group?
Well, Brian Kelly said at SEC Media Days that he's bullish about the offensive line, but what we've seen so far would not necessarily be that way. They have mostly struggled through camp. It's been pretty. They had one good day this Monday. They protected Garrett Nussmeier pretty well, and when they did, the offense kind of clicked. But from what we've seen out there so far, the defense has won a lot of the reps, especially up front. It's been tough for LSU to consistently run the ball this far in camp, and they've popped some big runs here and there, but a lot of tackles for loss or 3, maybe working really hard for a 5-yard gain kind of plays. So the offensive line is going to have to just keep getting better here over the next few weeks. It has been the biggest concern on this team throughout the offseason, and nothing we've seen so far has changed that. That's still certainly a group that needs to be monitored closely and maybe be worried about going into that opener at Clemson.
Finally, Wilson, I saw some rumblings of Aaron Anderson a little bit dinged up earlier in the week. How serious is this? How concerned should LSU fans be about this? He's obviously a guy they're going to lean on in a lot of different ways.
No, not a high level of concern with his injury. Brian Kelly said that he had some inflammation in his knee. There was a knee injury that Aaron had as a freshman at Alabama that he had to have surgery for. And then Brian Kelly's theory is that after working a lot this summer, high volume, that it just kind of got inflamed. Brian Kelly described it to me as Aaron has a cranky knee, and they kind of just had to get that taken care of. He had some work done on it. some kind of minor stuff, and they held him out of practice up until he was supposed to return to practice yesterday. We don't know that for sure because practice was closed, but we'll be able to see on Friday if that was the case, if he was able to get back out there. Nothing that has been expressed as a concern to this point, and so that all signs are still pointing toward him. One of the things Brian Kelly said on early this week was that they think they've taken care of it for the rest of the year, that Aaron should not be affected. They might have to manage his workload between games, but you should see him out there every Saturday.
Any other health concerns so far in camp for LSU that we may not have heard about or that aren't really making as much noise?
Nothing other than the rumor mill around Garrett Nussmeier yesterday. I don't know if y'all saw that one. Took off like wildfire that he had, that his knee had exploded and he had torn his ACL and all that stuff, and that's not the case. He did get maybe a little bit dinged up yesterday. It was described to me as just a tweak, though. It'll be interesting to see if he has to miss any practice time, but it's not going to be something where we're worried about his status for the opener. Otherwise, LSU has, knock on wood for any LSU fans out there, been healthy to this point. Solomon Thomas, a freshman offensive lineman, has a foot injury, but that is all that has been out there so far.
The dreaded knee explosion. You never want that. Nobody wants to go through that.
Man, it was crazy yesterday. People were saying he'd been airlifted to a hospital, and it was like, nope, he's in the quarterback room watching tape, from what I understand.
Crazy. Wilson, thank you so much for the time today. Great stuff. Look forward to catching up soon.
Thanks for having me. I'll have a good day.
Go inside Jocks 94.5 on Jocks TV. Morning Jocks, Mac and Cube, three-man front video simulcasts are presented by Bill Smith Buick GMC and Game Day Men's Health. Watch on the Jocks mobile app and YouTube by searching Jocks 94.5 TV.
All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. Some Auburn updates quickly. Hugh Freeze a little disappointed with Wednesday's practice, saying the energy wasn't where it needs to be.
You would think we would have, a little more energy. I would hope. I told him just a while ago. I mean, if you're only excellent when people are watching, it's really not excellence. It's just performing. There were spurts of practice that were really good, and then others that I thought we just kind of got through. So we've got to improve that and make sure that every rep, every day must be stacked in order to win these competitive close games that we're going to be in.
You're going to have these days, Greg, and we know sometimes coaches are trying to send messages to guys through the media to pick it up and give you a little bit more. Apparently, after today's practice, he was a little bit better, felt a little bit more confident with what they saw. So also, Hugh Freeze on Jackson Arnold's decision-making so far through practice.
Really pleased. Met with him yesterday and the quarterback coaches on again, it's sad but true, but I get to go in the rooms and only talk about the bad stuff, and that's just and I know they get it, but man, I get paid to try to fix the stuff we're not doing well, so that's usually the only time I have from go to room and say we have to get this fixed, and there's not a lot that he's a little greedy in the RPO game a bit. But I think we can get that corrected pretty simply, and I don't think he did that today. After yesterday's meeting, I don't remember a single one that he tried to force and make something happen. So I'm really pleased with his decision making. I think the ball is coming out quick, and I think he's using his legs when he doesn't feel comfortable with what he sees, and creating, again, everything's not team periods, but he's creating explosive plays when he does move out of the pocket. He's throwing really well on the run. So to this point, I'm really pleased with where he's at.
Greg, call me crazy, but I actually like hearing Hugh Freeze say that Jackson Arnold's a little greedy in the RPO game.
I knew you were going to say that. I know you too well, because last year you had such an issue with his unwillingness to cut it loose and hold on to it a little too long and make sure the picture's clear before he decides to pull the trigger. So I knew you were going to say that, being the offensive line. Get the ball out, like every offensive line coach always says. But also at the same time, like calculated risk, situational risk. There's a time and place to be greedy, and there's a time and place to be smart. And I think just depending on the situation that he's describing, if it's in a gotta-have-it situation, by all means, get greedy. But if it's in a situation early in the second quarter, no need. Just live to take the check down, play the next play, and go get them the next time. So situational greed is perfectly fine. But at the same time, let's not get carried away.
I'm with you. But I just, from a general standpoint, where he was, what we know needs to be repaired, hearing that he's attacking a little bit more, that raises my level of confidence right now. And
yes,
that could be, something where it has nothing to do with the season. It has nothing to do with where we go, how things look. But right this second, with what we know needs to get created and sort of rejuvenated inside of him, I'll say that's a plus for Jackson Arnold already through camp.
100%. And also, too, the fact that the defense is covering the RPO game. I mean, that to me is also a good thing. You got some new pieces on defense, some guys that are changing their roles. And guess what? Covering and defending RPOs is hard. And if the defense is covering them well, that's a pretty good indicator on that side of the ball as well.
Absolutely. All right, so appreciate Wilson Alexander stopping by, talk some LSU. Tomorrow we got Trent Dilfer. We're going to talk UAB's camp so far. Andrew Bone going to join us, talk an article he's got up on a certain Alabama defender right now. And we'll get you updated around all the camps throughout the course of the Southeastern Conference as we head into the weekend. Three-man front coming at you next. Don't forget to keep it locked right here on Jocks for your college football conversation all day long. We're back tomorrow at 7 a.m. right here on Jocks, breaking down everything college football. How many days till kickoff?
17?
17 days. Enjoy the first day of school if it is for you and your kids. We're back tomorrow. Three-man front coming up next.
This is McElroy and Cubelic in the morning.